Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to do these lovely flower component earrings. They're called from the inside out because we're going to be showing how to create from the inside and go out, and then change up the pattern and create from the outside and go in. So make sure you watch the whole video because this is great to show you the different ways that you can attempt a pattern and still come out with the same design. So to start our pattern, we're going to begin with the bottom flower, which you can do just one flower or you can do the stack. I'm going to show you how to do the connector and work basically from the outside in. We're going to start from the inside out, then the outside in. So make sure you watch the whole video to see how it's done in case you want to go in and make this component a bracelet. We have some size 6 dragon thread here in green, and I have 4mm pearls, 2mm Potomac crystal rounds, 11 O's, and 15 O's. If you need the full list of materials, remember you can go below the video in the description and get a link there. What we're going to do is we are going to begin by circling a total of 12 11 O seed beads around a 4mm pearl. So we're going to grab our pearl here, put it onto our thread, and I'm going to let it just hang at the bottom of about 4 feet of thread. From here, pick up 6 seed beads. So there's my 6, and I'm going to sew through the pearl, starting at the bottom where the thread end is, and go all the way up through the pearl, which is going to put those 6 beads on one side. Very classic bead weaving technique. From here, 6 more beads go on. And once again, go through the pearl, starting at the thread end space, and go so that you're sewing toward the bigger portion of your thread. This is going to put those 12 beads around the outside. Now notice how they're gapped a little bit. We're going to bring them into a continuous circle by coming out of the pearl, sewing through all 12 seed beads. And we're actually going to sew through a total of 14 beads because we're going to start adding some of our 2mm rounds as we get to the other side. So I've sewn through those first 6mm 11 O's, and now we're going to continue that line, not sewing through the pearls and just sewing through the seed beads. Again, the reason we're doing this is to connect that line of seed beads so it almost looks continuous on the project. From here, when you get to the end, that's through bead number 12, go through bead number 1 and 2 of that first grouping of 6. So again, sewing through 14 beads there to connect one side to the other. And see how that just pulls it in right there? It makes it look a much more continuous line. From here, we're going to start adding in our 2mm rounds. I want you to pick up 1 2mm round and 1 11 O seed bead. The 11 O seed bead is going to work as a cap on that bead. Bringing the camera a little closer here, we are going to come back down through that 2mm bead, but not through the 11 O seed bead. You can see what that's going to do is create a little stopper bead with the 11 O that's going to sit right over that 2mm bead. Sew through the next 2 beads, so beads 3 and 4 of those original seed bead line, and do the same thing again. Grabbing one of your 2mm round, grabbing another one of your 11 O's, sewing back down through the 2mm, and then through the next 2 seed beads. And see how they're kind of going in a circle there? That's 2. We're going to get a total of 6 of them hanging out. So you're adding a bead, adding that 11, coming back down through the 2mm crystal, and then sewing through the next 2 beads before adding the next beads that sit on top. This is going to get these crystals in place and the 11 O's in place for us to connect another set of pearls to the outer edge. Once you get that last bead in place, I want you to sew through the next 2 seed beads, which are going to bring you out near that first crystal that you added. From here, you're going to sew up through the crystal, that first one that you added, and I want you to sew through the 11 O that sits right on top. So you can see the 11 O's are kind of sitting off to the side right now. You don't have to worry about it after this side because we're going to make them all sit straight. To make them all sit straight, you're going to start gathering up a 15 O on either side of a pearl. So you're going to gather a 15 O and then one of your pearls, and then a 15 O, and then sew into the next 11 O that sits on top of the next crystalline line. My thread wants to keep looping on the side. So see how that creates that little arching effect? 15, purl, 15, and then through the next 11 seed bead. I've got 2 on there, and we have 2 on there, 4 more to go. 1, 2, 3, and 4 to add those in together. As you add in the last 15, purl 15, you're going to start sewing back through the beads that you put on first as you did this first little purl rotation. If you get any gapping, that it starts to pucker either into like a cup shape or a bowl shape, up or down, you just want to relax the thread a little bit. And if you really get a lot, chances are your beads are a little bit off in size if you are using different ones. From here, what we're going to do is coming out of the 15 before that purl, we're going to create an overarching grouping of 6 more 15 seed beads. So you're going to do 6 seed beads on. There's 4, 5, and 6 seed beads on. Then we're going to skip over the purl and we're going to sew through the next 15, 11, 15, and then bring our thread and needle out. Again, this just creates that pretty little arch over top of the purl. 6 more 15s, and you guessed it, we're going to do this 6 times. Skip over the purl, which forces those seed beads to go to the outer edge, and then into the next grouping of 15, 11, 15, and out. 2 down, 4 more to go. As we finish out that outer loop, I'm bringing my thread and needle through that first 15, 11, 15 that we connected onto, and that creates that nice little scalloped flower look. So from here, you can be finished, and these can be just a really cute little pair of earrings as a component. You can also join in if you want to and stack them like I did on the sample to be a 2-drop pair of earrings. You can keep going and connect them as a bracelet if you want to. And I'm going to show you how to connect them to one another, and also how to start then if you have a connection that you don't have to build each element separately. You can start this second one from the outside and build toward the inside. So from here, we're going to do our connection point. And what I want to do is go through the next purl, the next 15-0 after the purl, and the 11-0, and bring my thread and needle out through the project. We're going to use right angle weave as our form of our connection. So we have 1 bead here, that's going to be bead number 1, 1, 2, 3 more 11-0 seed beads, and then we're going to sew back through that bead number 1 from the opposite side of where the thread is coming out. So circling the thread around, adding those in, and that's going to get us into a little pattern like that. From here, pick up a 15, sew through that first 11-0, and we're going to add a 15 between each one of those beads in the right angle weave. Add a 15, go through the 11-0. What this does is it adds a little bit of stability, it adds to the look, and also it hides the thread. Add a 15, go through the next 11-0. Last one, add a 15, sew through that first 11-0. When you do that, you basically get that pattern of those 4 beads, of those 4 cream beads here, and the beads that are going up to it. I want you to ignore that 15, sew through the next 11 coming out of the 11, and then sew through the next 11, once again ignoring that 15. And pull nice and tight. See that fun little squared connection point. We're going to do a ladder stitch now to connect it to our next bead section, because I want them to sit one on top of the other. So you're going to take a new 11-0. Your thread is coming out of the 11-0 here on the right hand side. We're going to take our thread and needle and go through the left hand side, which brings the 11-0 that we just added to sit right on top. go back through the 11-0 that you just added, and that is our connection spot. From here, we're going to get ready to do the exterior now of our flower, because remember I said we're doing the first one interior to exterior, and this second one now exterior to interior, showing how you can use this component all as one to do that bracelet or earrings. If you do happen to change up the size of the beads, if you want the next one to be a little bit smaller and use 3mm or 15 instead of the 11, make sure to comment below the video to help out other Potomac beaders that may be watching, and that will give them ideas for how they can become a better beader and use different sizes and different shapes to make the pattern their own. From here, we're going to go around and create the outer edge. So right now, the bead we just added is that white bead right there. We're going to add our 6 outer beads of our pearls. So we're going to add a 15, and then we're going to add a pearl, and then we're going to do the pattern of 15, 11, 15, followed by a pearl. We're going to repeat this pattern till we have on all of our pearls, until we get ready after our last pearl just to add 1 15, and so back through this original 11 that our third thread is currently coming out of. Once you have all 6 pearls on, you want to end with a 15. Again, we're going to bring our thread back through that 11-0 seed bead, going this time from the right side over to the left. This is going to get our initial outer loop of our pearls. While we are here, we are going to do our outer loops around the outside and then once again work our way in. So I want you to take your thread and needle through your 15, and just to stabilize it a little bit, take it through the next 15, 11, 15, and out before the second pearl. Remember, on the exterior, we did that little rounded edge here, almost that lacy doily look, with 6 of our 15s. So over the pearl, not through it, and then go through the 15, 11, 15. 6 more, 15, 11, 15, sewing through. 6 more, and so forth, going on and adding that outer frame of our seed beads. As you do your last outer row here, adding those 6 15-0s in, you're going to pull tightly with your thread, and I just want to show you this open closed pattern that you could also choose to keep. So you have it open without that interior of all the pearls and seed beads, or you have the interior first and going round. From here, I want you to grab a 15, and we're going to work towards our inner circle here. So we're doing a 2mm crystal, and then our 2 11-0s. We're going to do another one of our 2mm crystals. So this project is really great thinking about how you can do the steps and get the same result doing them in a different order. From here, after the 2mm, I'm going to go up to the next 11-0 that sits next to the next pearl. So through that 11-0, then back down through that 2mm bead. After you're through that 2mm bead, 2 more 11-0s go on, and you repeat on the next one. And once again, you can stop at this point without putting the pearl in the middle too. We'll see what that looks like. From here, we're going over, after having 2 11s and a 2mm bead on our thread and needle, over to the next 11-0, sewing through just that 11-0, and then bringing my needle and thread back down through the 2mm bead, and then adding 2 more 11s. We're going to continue this scalloping effect the whole way around the interior of these pearls. So as you come back around to this first 2mm bead, you have 2 11-0s that you're going to be adding right after that last 2mm bead that was on your needle. Back up through that first one, and then through the opposite side of the 11-0 just to complete this circle. So when you pull this around then, wants to go through that 15 too. Let me pull that needle out. There we go. When you circle this around, I'm going to show you the effect, and this is why components are a lot of fun. There's usually very often different steps that you can do to get a completely different look. So here we have that opening just by doing the stitches backwards that we have no pearl in the middle. We're going to add a pearl, obviously, to the middle to make sure that our earrings match, but I like showing the different steps along the way. Go back through now after coming out the 11-0, down through that original 2mm crystal, and start to go around the seed beads. We're going to go around the first 6 seed beads here, because remember we added 6 originally to that pearl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to bring that pearl towards the interior. Then adding our last pearl. Go back through those 6 beads that you just went through. So I'm circling back around those 6, basically doing a semicircle with my thread. As you do this here, go back through the pearl one more time, and now switch to the other grouping of 6. Going back through all 6 beads here, doing the thread again, just in reverse. As we go through here and do this in reverse and then catch on to those 6 beads, what you're also going to do is the last step is going to be connecting all 12 of these interior beads into my center loop. Give that nice tight pull. And now you can't tell whether or not it was done from the inside or the outside towards the interior. Going through then all those 12 beads of that interior row of seed beads, the last thing we're going to do is basically make another connection point as if we're getting ready to do our next component, but instead we're going to put on our ear wire. We're going to put on our ear wire using a wire guard, but you can also keep going and do your next component in the exact same fashion and make this, like I said, into a necklace, bracelet, or even beyond. 5 beads or 6 of these little components would look great. You can also change up the floral color and make it almost like a bouquet of a bracelet. Getting back to the starting side here, if I want to connect to the top, you're gumming out those 2 11-0 seed beads. Go up through that 2mm rondelle here. Go through the 11-0 seed bead that is right above that rondelle, hanging out and keeping it in place. And once you're through there, we're going to come to the top and we're going to do our connection once again. But instead of actually connecting onto anything, we're going to add our ear wire right there at the top. So our connection is that right angle weave unit, 1, 2, 3 more 11-0s. So back into the 11-0 that your thread is currently coming out of. Once you're out through that, you're going to put in your 15s between those beads. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. At the top then, we are going to go in and we're going to add 1 more seed bead as we go around and our wire guard to the top. Wire guard to the top is going to be connected to that other little bead that we connect there. Going through seed beads. I'm just kind of wiggling there. I have a size 10 needle on. If you do a size 12, you won't have to do as much wiggling. Go through those seed beads. Up here at the top, do that brick stitch, or sorry, that ladder stitch to stitch that bead on, and then our wire guard to finish it off. From here at the top, grab your wire guard or your wire protector. You're going to go through the wire guard one way, down through the wire guard the other way, and then connect onto the opposite side of the 11-0. Reinforce this twice so your thread inconspicuously back through your design so you can knot off the 2 thread ends right next to one another. When you knot off the 2 thread ends, then you can burn those down on the piece and you won't even see them mixed in there. You can see then on our sample piece when I've done that, You can see just the tiniest little knot right there burned down and finished off. Once you're done with that and you burn off your thread, you're just going to grab your ear wire, open it up, and finish off your component earrings. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you learned a lot about switching up the pattern and changing the order of the way that you add beads, but still get that same design element and component. I can't wait to see some of you make it into necklaces and bracelets, so make sure that you post your designs in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. As always, it's great if you comment any changes to help out other Potomac beaders that may be watching, switching out to 3mm pearls or even making them bigger with 6s. As always, you can subscribe to us so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for our next inspirational design.